Well, hi there, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Real Estate Investing. I'm your host, Sharon Vornholt, and I'm so glad you're tuning in today. My guest today is April Crossley, and I'm so excited to have her on the show and have you to hear about her and about her story. She speaks frequently on podcasts and at conferences about her journey from being a teenage mom on welfare to starting in healthcare and then transitioning into a life of financial freedom through real estate. She calls herself a no-nonsense educator and investor who helps people grow wealth through real estate. And that's something I want to dive into. No-nonsense educator. April began investing in 2004 when she started flipping houses as a side gig. Her first deal was a joint venture using other people's money. She has only purchased off-market deals and has never used any of her own money to buy her flip projects or her rental properties. She's raised millions in private money. She flips and wholesales between 20 and 30 houses a year, owns a portfolio of small multifamily rental properties, and she's also a lender herself. And she retired at the age of 35 from a 13-year career in healthcare by investing in real estate. She recently sold her house within the past year and travels the U.S. full-time in her RV with her husband and her dog while still doing real estate deals. Welcome to the show, April.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Well, it's so exciting because I try to wrap my brain around people that do bold things like sell your house and move into an RV and travel the world, but sometimes it's a little hard to wrap my brain around it. So I gave people a broad overview of what you do, but how did you get started? I mean, what made you choose real estate as your side gig to begin with? So let's talk about that and a little bit more of your backstory.
Yeah. So the reason I chose real estate was really because I read a book. I mean, I was a young mom. I tell people my son basically saved my life because he gave me direction. So I wanted to give him the best life ever. So when he was born, I finished high school. I went to college. I knew I was going to go into healthcare because of my son. He was sick with a lot of respiratory illness when he was a baby. So I went and got my bachelor's degree in biology. I became a respiratory therapist, was super passionate about healthcare. I was actually in school for my master's degree to become the CEO of a hospital. So I was shadowing a CEO at a small hospital that I worked at. And I was bound and determined that I'm going to be a CEO someday of a hospital. And I met my now husband during this same time. And he had real estate books everywhere all the time. He was a real estate agent. He had worked in finance. He was self-educating himself. And I picked up one of his books and the stories were all about, it was called The 1 Minute Millionaire was the first book I picked up. And the stories were all about these people that are like buying houses and other people are paying them off. Now I'm working in healthcare. I have a great job, I'm making great money, and I'm renting a house when I met my husband. And I was not financially educated at all. So despite my education and getting my master's and whatnot, I had no financial education. I couldn't even balance a checkbook. And my husband said to me, "Why are you renting a house?" And I was like, "Why wouldn't I rent a house? Like, what else am I supposed to do?" And he's like, "You should buy a house." I'm like, "I don't even know how to do that. Why would I do that?" So my husband helped me buy my first house. Simultaneously, I'm reading this book. And long story short, ended up dropping out of my master's program so that I could take real estate classes, so that we could pay for some courses, so that we could learn more about real estate. And I just became like, my husband always says, like, I created a monster. I just wanted to learn more and more and more about buying and flipping, and really flipping houses. I became super addicted when I paid off my college loan debt. I mean, I still have the email to this day from my loan company saying I paid off my college loan debt. Cause I'm like, what if they come back and say I didn't? But I would still have that college loan debt if I didn't learn about real estate. I would still have it to this day. So once I paid off that debt, then I was like, well, I want to pay off my car. I want to pay off my house. I want to pay off this. I want to pay off that. It just becomes addicting, and you realize this is the path to growing wealth and making sure my family is going to be okay. Yeah.
That is so interesting. I talk about that all the time I have two daughters and one granddaughter, and none of them were taught any type of financial literacy in high school and college. I just find it astounding that's not part of the core curriculum.
Yeah, me too. As someone said something the other day about a friend of mine about how remember in high school when we had to take square dancing in gym class? And I'm
Yes.
like, yeah, that was real useful to me in my life. I mean, when I met my husband, he would be like, how do you know how much money's in your bank account? And I said, I don't know. Like, I have a good job in healthcare. There's always enough to pay my bills. And if I need to know the balance, I just go to the ATM machine and I get a receipt and it tells me. And he's like, wow. So it was a lot of work that I had to do, and educating myself that I had to do. But now I look at my son who's 26 and I'm just astounded. Like, his life has been the complete opposite of what mine was at the age of 26. He is so much more knowledgeable because of everything we were able to teach him. So once you teach yourself and take that time, it's just a ripple effect for generations, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely a way to create generational wealth, is to create the give them the information and the path to create that for themselves.
Yeah.
So did you start out with single family rentals?
We did. So we started flipping houses, then we bought a 6 unit. And then after the 6 unit, we started buying single family rentals and then buying some smaller multi-units, like a 3 unit and a 4 unit. And then when we got to the point where we're always growing still. So when you're young and you're buying stuff, you just think, I'm going to keep buying stuff forever and I'm never going to sell anything. And as you get older, you realize that's not true. I'm probably going to shift gears into another avenue of real estate and eventually start selling stuff. So we started really looking at our financials at the end of every year and what was performing best in our market. And every market's different. I tell people that don't do what I do what works in your market. Mm-hmm. So we actually sold the majority of our single family rentals over the past 4 years. And now we just buy larger multifamily, but we held on to all our small multifamily, like 8 units and 6 units, stuff like that, because they perform really well for us compared to our singles. Yeah.
Do you find that the tenant mix is very different from apartments to single family homes? That's what I found.
Yeah, I have found that. I've just, with the single family homes, people then see it as like their home. Even I have 2 single family homes left, three single family homes left. And the reason I don't sell them is because I forget that I own them. I don't even remember that I own them. And that's because my tenants have been there so long. And every time I would go there, I don't even check on the house anymore because I used to go. And I always tell them, this house is basically more your house than my house, the way you care for it. If you ever want to buy it, come to me and you're more than welcome to buy it. And they don't. I'm not, for one reason or another, but they definitely stay longer and I feel take better care of the property than what the apartment unit tenants tend to do.
Yeah, I found that there's a definite difference in the mentality of the people, but that doesn't mean apartments are bad. I think you maybe need a little bit more education sometimes.
Yes, agree. And padding your numbers when you run your numbers on your apartment buildings. I like that. If, say, I have a 4 unit and 1 unit goes empty, my other 3 units are carrying the building, but my units are going to go empty more often because someone doesn't want to live in a 1-bedroom apartment forever. They're going to upgrade. So you have to account for that in your numbers. Whereas single family, when it goes empty, nothing's coming in, but they're usually there a lot longer, longer. Yeah.
Now, I know that, so your decision then was purely financial and easy. It was about the numbers to segue from single family to apartments and multifamilies.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. It was basically what was performing for us and what wasn't. Yeah. And now we're involved with buying larger multifamily and more into larger projects just because I've seen how growing wealth has changed my life. And I utilized private money ever since 2004. So my passive investors have been with me for a long time, and I'm educating more and more. And then my private lenders started coming to me and saying, you changed my life. Like, you taught me about passive investing, and I thought I would have to buy real estate. I thought I would have to be a landlord. You showed me how to passive invest, and you completely changed my life. I can't thank you enough. And that feels really good. I mean, I worked in healthcare, so I was constantly helping people in healthcare. And my biggest fear when I got into real estate was, how am I going to help people? I can't just like make money. I have to be helping people.
Mm-hmm.
And now I see how I'm changing my passive investors' lives and changing other people's lives by teaching them how to grow wealth. So I was like, how do we do this on a bigger scale? So now that we're able to buy bigger, now we can have more passive investors involved in one project. You're just helping more people grow wealth. And my whole thing is grow wealth, change lives. Like, the more people we can help grow wealth, the more lives we can change in this country, which is what we need to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree completely. And yeah, I know that you both use private money and you lend private money. And I think this was a huge gap for me in my education when I started out more than 20 years ago. I did not know that well, first of all, in the early years, I didn't even know about private money. I knew about joint ventures, but I didn't know that like you said, that there were people that did that as their segue into real estate to make passive income. But I think investors today are more savvy from the get-go, simply because we talk about private money partners. But I don't think they realize that needs to be part of their plan right from the start.
Yeah.
I don't think, they don't understand that raising private money should be part of their overall plan, whatever that is, right from the beginning. They need to be doing this simultaneously. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong.
I 150% agree. And I say that all the time. I'm like, I don't know why private money isn't talked about more. People are so hesitant to talk about it. Everyone's like, find deals, joint venture, find deals. I'm like, you need to be raising private money at the same time that you are simultaneously looking for deals. This can never stop. And I really believe, like, if you have a deal, the money's going to come. If you go to someone with more experience and say, I have this great deal, I want a partner, the money's going to be there, because there's people like me that work with private money partners all the time. But there comes a point where you have to make that part of your big, like, business and wheel, is the whole raising private money and connecting with more private money lenders. And I agree, it's talked about way more now than it even was back in 2004.
Exactly.
When I did my first flip project in 2004, I went to someone with more experience and was like, I have this deal, but I have no money. And he's like, that's okay, I'll bring the money. And it wasn't his money, it was a private money lender. It completely blew my mind that this was like how we were buying this project. And that's when I started learning more and more and more about private money. But it wasn't talked about near as much as it is now. And it's still not talked about a lot. Yeah.
It's still not talked about a lot. And it was like, in my RIA, it was like the best kept secret amongst the guys.
Yes.
And they didn't talk about it. And they certainly didn't tell you where they were getting their money, who the private money lender was. And that is still true to pretty much the same degree today.
Yes.
It really is. So I think educating people about private money and how you go about that process is so important, because you can't go to somebody and say, I desperately need money, because they're going, well, you really need to get that money in place before you desperately need the money.
Yes. Yeah.
So as a private money lender, what are the steps for you when someone approaches you? This is most definitely a relationship business. It's a relationship where there's got to be a lot of trust, but it's also a business arrangement where they have to know their numbers. What is it you expect from someone that comes to you that says, April, I'd like to partner with you, like for you to become my private money lender? What do you need from those people?
Yeah, it is very relationship based. And most of the people I work with, I know, or I've met somehow, whether that's in real estate circles or someone has connected me with them, or we've spent time talking on the phone back and forth, or like I connected recently with a gal out of Washington State, and we've had many conversations just where not both about real estate and life and travel, where I can really tell what her core values are and what's important to her and what type of person she is. And that's more important to me than any deal. But when someone comes to me, I typically tell them we need to develop a relationship. I need them to fill out a deal package, which is like all about, you know, all the numbers on the deal, on the flip project or rental if they're doing cash out refi. Depending on how well I know them, I need to get their personal financial information. I usually want to know how much experience they have. And if they don't have a lot of experience, I try to connect them with someone in their market that has a lot of experience. Because I just don't think like borrowing private money at 70% of ARV and rehab costs and funding the whole thing to a newbie is a smart idea. There's so many things that can go wrong in a rehab. And when you don't have experience, it's difficult to navigate. And I'm speaking from experience. So I feel like they should have someone that's stronger and more experienced to joint venture with. So I'll usually tell them, I would do the loan, but I need you to team up with this person to do the deal. Yeah.
So you're creating like a partnership, a 50-50 partnership with this person to make sure that the deal doesn't go south.
Right. Yeah. And I've had borrowers in my area that they've reached out to private money lenders I know, and they say, hey, I have this great flip project. And the private money lender will reach out to me and say, do you know this person? Because I run a meetup group in my area. And I'll say, yeah, I know her. She's a really great person, has a good head on her shoulders, great job. And the private money lender will say, she wants me to fund her deal. If you sign on to the loan and joint venture with her, I'll fund the deal. But I don't want to just fund it to her because she doesn't have enough experience. That may only happen 1, 2, 3 times with that borrower. And then eventually, once she's proven herself and has a track record, that private money lender is going to be more than willing to just lend to her without anyone else being on the deal.
Right.
Yeah. So newbies kind of have to sometimes get a little creative, but I feel like there's a mental block sometimes with newbies. Like, I found this deal and I want to keep all the profit. I don't want to split my profit with anyone. And if they can get over that mental block and realize that partnership's going to take them 10 times further than working by themselves in the long run. But what happens is they lose sight of the big picture and they're just focused on this one deal and this one piece of profit. And it's like, but you're developing a relationship with a private money lender. So if you can successfully make it through this deal, it's going to snowball after that.
Yeah, I agree completely. So it's hard for them to understand, like you said, that they're going to have to split. Yeah. But once they do those few deals, then they'll have more than twice the knowledge, many times over the knowledge. And then they can move forward and do it on their own. But it's a hard concept for people to understand that you'll go faster and further by partnering.
Yeah, it is. It was a hard concept for me when I was new. I'm not going to lie. And I was talking to a friend today and I said, my biggest regret is being a solopreneur too long. My biggest regret is not partnering sooner in everything. My flip business, buying larger multifamily, everything. My biggest regret was just doing it too long by myself.
It's a lot harder.
Yeah, but it took me joining a mastermind group and another investor blatantly saying to me, your biggest fault in your business is that you work by yourself. That's it. Like, and I was like, I need to sit with that and really think about that. And I did. And then I brought someone else on and things completely changed for me. And I started to scale and it just catapulted everything.
It's so interesting that you say that because partners and private money, I think, are how you scale. Now, they may be partners, may be actual partners. They may be advisors, like you said, a mastermind group, but they are people that know more than you know, and that can, and often that have the money. If you're out there waiting to try to save up money to do your next deal, you're never going to be able to scale, ever.
Yeah. Yeah. And people often ask me, why do you spend so much time creating relationships with private money lenders when you can just call a hard money lender or go online to a hard money lender? And I said, you will never scale with hard money. You will never scale with hard money. Private money lenders refer you to other private money lenders, and they will be with you for the long haul, from the time you're flipping houses to the time you're buying apartment buildings to syndications. They're going to grow with you. Hard money lenders are not, they do not get that personal relationship and don't get to know you, they could care less if you scale or they refer you to anyone or not. So it's really beneficial to not just rely on hard money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you run the person's credit that that it's asking to borrow money from you.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
And if their credit isn't good enough, then we will usually ask them to partner with someone with more experience that we know, that we have a pre-existing relationship with.
So that's still a win-win.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
What about the terms? I know what they are in my area, like the length of the loan and the interest. What is typical in your world?
So for a flip project, I would say rates are, from private money in my area, usually somewhere between 10 and 12%. You do have some people that are a little higher than that. Mm-hmm. And some people charge points up front. So 1 or 2 points up front, but that's the average range that I'm seeing. And the term is typically 6 months. And then the note will say it can go up to a year if they need up to a year. I live in Pennsylvania. So I mean, if you're starting a house flip and it's October, you could have a foot of snow on the ground in November with cement work that you need to do. So It's important to have extensions in there sometimes for situations like that.
Right. And that's pretty typical for my area and for other areas where I know people that do a lot of private money lending. Do you also verify that they can get refinanced before you loan someone money? Yeah. That's a big thing that people forget.
Yeah. I have a deal package that I use, and I always ask, one of the questions on there is, what is your exit strategy? So I ask them, and if their exit strategy is to refinance it as a rental property, then I make them get a pre-approval letter from the bank stating that they can refinance it. Yeah.
Yeah. So this gives people an overview of what to expect from a private money lender. And I think it's all about the knowledge. Once you understand what is expected of you and, you know, the rules of the game, so to speak, then you can just move forward with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, what about, have you ever had to take a property back?
I haven't. No.
Okay.
Good due diligence up front, but I do know some people that have. I have not. My words of advice on that are always work with an attorney that litigates. Like, I don't want an attorney that just does paperwork. I want an attorney that's going to back that paperwork in court. So my attorney that draws up all my documents does litigate.
Okay. Yeah. I want to change course here just a little bit. And I want to talk about your new venture. You sold your house, moved into your RV. You've been on the road, what, 9 or 10 months now? Or
10 months, yeah.
10 months. 10 months. Boy, that's a long time. I'm just rolling that around in my head without the modern conveniences. How has that affected your business? I'm going to talk about doing business, buying and selling real estate from your RV while you're traveling the country.
Yeah. So it's, before I was traveling full time, I used to snowbird to Arizona for 3 months out of the year. So just snowbirding 3 months out of the year taught me what I had to let go of in my business and what partners I had to bring on to be able to work remotely. And then so I kind of dipped my toe in, and every time I'd be gone for 3 months over the winter, I'd find pain points and be like, I have to hire someone to do this, or I have to hire a partner for this. And then once we left for a whole year, it's been good, I think, because I'm used to working remotely now, from working remotely 3 months out of the year. I do sometimes miss that personal connection with other real estate investors, or especially sellers of large apartment complexes. But my goal is financial freedom and to be as passive as possible. I have a tendency when I'm home to want to meet with everybody and be involved in those things. And in reality, I don't have to be. Yeah. The partners I have are really strong, and I don't need to be there. I trust them to walk a 18 unit and tell me what it looks like and how much rehab it needs. I don't mind being the person behind the scenes. And I find that when I'm traveling, I'm less stressed because I'm not trying to appease everybody. And when they say to me, well, I want you to be there, I can say, well, I'm in South Dakota, so that's not going to work. So my team can come and I can communicate with you, or we don't look at the project. So people don't need you there. They just think they need you there. So it's been freeing, actually.
Did you just put all your stuff in storage, or did you put everything in storage?
So we sold our house and cleaned out like 2 dumpsters worth of stuff. And then we put the rest of our stuff in storage. But I said to my husband, living in an RV really teaches you the whole minimalist thing. You don't need a lot of things. And I said, that stuff in storage, we haven't missed that at all. And it's been gone for how long now? So I feel like when we go back, we're going to have another dumpster full of stuff, because like, what is this stuff that we have in storage? I don't understand. Like, I know we probably have like a couch in there, things like that for house furnishings, but I'm like, we don't really need the stuff that we have at all.
We all have too much stuff.
Too much stuff. Yeah.
Too much stuff. And I find that the stuff and the when it gets to be cluttery, it messes with my brain. I can't think straight.
Yeah, I tell people that all the time. I'm one of those people that if my house is messy, I can't work. Like I can't function and do my job how I should do my job and run my business how I should, because my house is messy. It's the same way when you have things everywhere. So I feel like when I do plant roots again, even before my house was pretty empty, like if you walked in, there weren't really pictures on the wall. I picture it being the same thing. I just don't like a lot of things. Your physical environment definitely clutters your mental environment for sure. Yeah.
So let's talk a minute about the challenges. There must be an internet challenge, unless you've got some magic there. An internet challenge and documents. I guess if you have to get any documents, you have to get them at a place. I don't know you have a special place you go to, or how do you make all that work? Because normally they would just come to your home if you couldn't go. If you're doing a deal out of state, or they'd go to your attorney and you go to his office or whatever. So how do you handle all of that?
It's amazing when you travel full time, what you learn to put in place. So I have a bookkeeper and all my property bills, all my HUDs from settlement, everything goes to my bookkeeper's house. So he pays all the bills directly. He does all of that. So he files all my HUDs and puts them on a Google Drive for me. My business partner in my flip business, before I left, I got paperwork drawn up by my attorney, giving her permission to sign on all closings on my behalf. So I don't have to go to any closings. She goes to all my closings. If she can't go to a closing, I have paperwork overnighted. Most RV parks that you stay at, you can get mail and packages delivered. So I'll have paperwork overnighted to me. And then they send a FedEx label, and I'll go to a local title company, and the title company will notarize everything. And then I'll FedEx the paperwork back. So that stuff we have pretty down pat, way better than we did when we first started snowbirding. The internet connection, even now on this podcast, I'm like, please, Lord, let my internet hold for the entire interview. It is definitely challenging. I'm not going to lie. There's websites you can look up how good your cell phone reception is going to be, depending if you have AT&T or Verizon or whatever. But it doesn't matter. There's still times I dropped a call 5 times the other day and had to call the person back. And I just always try to warn people, like, I'm so sorry. I'm doing the best I can. And I think before we hopped on this call, I was saying how today it's working, but sometimes I'm doing podcast interviews from the front seat of the truck. And I just tell people I had to drive out to town to get service, and this is the best I can do. So no pretty studio. You're getting me in the front seat of my truck.
No, it's all about the information. That's all.
Yeah. So we make it work, but mostly, like, I had a township tell me the other day, I need you to come into the township building and sign this piece of paper for a property that we were selling. And I said, I'm sorry, like, I haven't physically signed something in almost a year. So if you can send that to me via DocuSign, that would be great. And he emailed me back and said, we don't have that capability, but I can email it. So he emailed it. I have a printer. I printed it out and then scanned and sent it back to him. But yeah, sometimes you just have to tell people, like, you need to catch up. It's the year 2021. Like, we don't need to be doing things pen and paper anymore.
You need to catch up. I love that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you say that doing business this way has hindered you at all, or has your business continued to grow in spite of it?
My business has actually grown more in the past year than it probably has in the past 5, but I don't think it has anything to do with traveling other than I joined a really great mastermind group 2 years ago that has really helped like open my mind and broaden my horizons. And traveling has really given me more creative ideas. I'm not a very creative person. So I see what people are doing and I get to talk to people about what they're doing in real estate in other states. So it's really helped me become more creative, which is helping me make more money. Yeah.
Nice. I like that. So you left your physical surroundings that you were comfortable with, and that's helped you to become more creative.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, April, what advice do you have for someone that wants to follow in your footsteps and travel and do real estate? What can you tell them that would make their journey easier?
Definitely joining a mastermind group or educating yourself fiercely and connecting with partners that have strengths that you don't have so that you can grow your business. It's going to help you scale tremendously and put team members in place so that you can let go. So there was a time when I didn't have a bookkeeper and I wasn't set up to sign documents remotely for settlement. So you have to be thinking every day with what you're doing. If I was traveling full time, would I be able to do this? And if the answer is no, I wouldn't be able to do this, then I think, what can I put in place so that this job can get done without me here? Mm-hmm. I'm always thinking about how can I remove myself from my business? I want a life where I don't have to be at any meetings. I don't have to be on any phone calls and I'm still making money. That's what I want my life to be. So every time I'm doing something, I'm thinking, do I need to be doing this or can I outsource this?
And that is a mindset shift.
Yes.
Because yes. All of us hang on to things too long because we think we have to do them.
Yes, agree. Yeah.
What I have found is that sometimes the person you hire can do it actually better than you do it or faster than you do it.
Me too. Yep. Me too. Yep.
Well, April, thanks so much for coming on the show today. It has been a pleasure. And I've been following your travels and all your pictures by the red rocks and everything. It's just so fascinating. And I congratulate you on not waiting till one day when you realize your dreams. And I think that's something more people need to do is how, instead of saying, when I retire, I'll do this, because we all know a lot of times that doesn't happen. You don't make it to then. But what could you do to change your business so that you could do what you want to do and live your best life now? That's a different question to ask yourself.
Agree. Yeah. Thank you for having me. It was great.
Well, it's great.
I hope it inspires people.
Oh, that I'm real sure that it will. And what is the best way for folks to reach out to you, assuming you have internet?
Yeah, assuming I have internet, they can reach me April at lazygirlrei.com. And of course, they can follow me on Instagram, April Crossley.
Okay. So I know she has a lot of great, she has a great YouTube channel. So be sure and check that out too.
Yeah, I do. I put a lot of content out on YouTube to help people. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, thanks so much, April. And thanks to all the listeners that tune in week after week. I really do appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this show, please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. I'll be back same time, same place next week. And you have a wonderful week. Bye for now.